Morning and happy new year, everybody. Rob Browne,
Happy
Brenden
New
Martin.
Year.
Hey, it's a great year. You want a slogan to live by this year? Hey, dreams kill fear. Keep dreaming, keep following the process, and don't ever let up. John Hartwell's going to join us.
So
Do
weird.
what?
I have that tattoo. Dreams.
Yeah.
Dreams.
Audrey sent me a Power 6
I
that
don't have
I'll share with you. It's good. John
Decent.
Hartwell checks in with us from down in Louisiana in Monroe. Franz Beard will be on a little bit after this. Kind of a fun day after New Year's Day show. They're all fun, but I want to start off, man. What happened down in New Orleans? I am praying for the folks who were killed and those who were wounded and their families. All of us, let's do that because that was a horrible situation. I've got friends that are down there and have heard some personal accounts of what happened and just a horrible situation. And they're going to play the Sugar Bowl, I think today, Brenden, at 4 or 5 is what it was rescheduled for.
I didn't see where, but John Hartwell will probably know that stuff because he's smarter than us.
Yeah, he is, and he's also taller than I am. So let's bring in John Hartwell. And John,
wait a minute. How tall are you, John Hartwell?
6'7".
6'7".
I'm 6'4". I thought I had all that here. Now you've thrown me as the tallest person on the show.
Hey, we're all sitting down. So yeah, happy New Year's to you guys. As always, appreciate the opportunity to visit with y'all. Yesterday in New Orleans, obviously a bad deal there.
Yeah.
And thoughts and prayers out to the many families affected, people who were, innocent bystanders who thought they were going out for a night of celebrating, ringing in the new year. And wow. I mean, I was thinking this morning, what the different routes we could go in today's show, and I don't want it to go political, but good Lord, we got to do something in our country. We've got to, people are getting away with too much stuff, and I think just that whole lax attitude has led to, to where we are today. So hopefully we can reel it back in some. But again, the thoughts and prayers go out there. But I think it's a 3 o'clock New Orleans time kick, 4 p.m. Eastern, because I know they flip-flop the Gator Bowl, and I think it's an evening start now for Ole Miss and Duke and Jacksonville.
John, talk about what that logistically could look like. I know you're not there. I know you don't have insight. I'm not saying that, but just give us a brief snapshot of what that could look like. Because I know a little bit, but I mean, you certainly, would you think there was discussions of, hey, should we move this? Should we go somewhere else? Just kind of touch on that if you can.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give what context I have, and certainly as an administrator for a lot of years, you deal with curveballs. Fortunately, I never had to deal with one quite in the aftermath of something like this. But yeah, I was actually very impressed by how quickly they were able to make a decision yesterday about first the postponement and then about the rescheduling of the game. And there's so many things that go into play. And obviously, when you have loss of life involved, everything else becomes secondary. But you've got the logistics of 2 teams. You've got the logistics of television, of the corporate sponsors. You've got, and again, hopefully this is far down the list, but at some point it becomes relevant. Is there a competitive advantage or disadvantage all of a sudden to one team that's in next week's semifinal game having 2 days extra of rest or preparation or whatever you want to call it, and then obviously even more at the forefront becomes the safety of the facility itself, of the Superdome, and getting teams in and out of there and getting fans in and out of there. And again, secondary, but the financial aspects, not just from TV and advertisement and all of that, but it's a sellout game. All the tickets. I know I purchased through our league some tickets for for a donor. And I think those lower level tickets face value $450. So, you've got a significant amount of revenue involved there too. So there are a lot of pieces there. And I know those were all put in priority order. First and foremost, the safety of the student athletes. And then, hey, they were in relative proximity, on Tuesday night to, and I know both teams went into lockdown mode in their hotels and stuff like that, but there's so many factors that go into it. And I applaud, the state, local, and federal authorities working with the CFP folks, working with the Sugar Bowl folks, working with the staff at both Georgia and at Notre Dame to get the thing rescheduled.
Yeah. Brenden, got a quick question for you. Something popped up on the top of my screen. Google Chrome isn't your default browser. It says in blue, set as default. Should I click that button?
Yeah, go ahead and
Okay.
set it as default.
Okay.
And that's, that's probably one of the challenges they're having out there right now is the default Google browser. No, I'm just kidding. Just try to transition that. Yeah, just go ahead and say you're fine. I was, John, I was trying to talk about this to a couple of people yesterday. We were discussing it, and they said, well, you did TV, TV production, all that kind of stuff. Worked in big box production, I call it. And I said, it's not so much what you do necessarily with, TV land. I said, you have to think about production land. That building works. That building's got a schedule. That building just doesn't hang out and wait for that bowl game. That building's got a turnover, and that building works almost every day of the year. And if it's not working, that's being turned over to work. And by meaning there's courts, there's things, there's fields coming out, there's things changing all the time for concerts, all that kind of stuff. Logistically, you can't just take a day off in the town of New Orleans. You can't take a day off because now you're backing up hotel rooms. People got to come and go. This is a major, major deal to even postpone it. I don't know. I guess there's no question in there. I guess this is more of a comment. Would you agree with that or not?
Yeah. And the things I didn't even look at that probably come into play. Hey, were the Pelicans scheduled to play at home tonight, right? The NBA team, and what does that do? Obviously, they're not going to have both of those events going on. And if they were playing, what hotel is the visiting or was the visiting team playing in?
Yeah.
So many components there to deal with. And I didn't even look to see last night what on basically a 6-8 hour notice, what was even slotted in the time slots on ESPN or any of the other stations that the game was scheduled to be on last night, what they were able to do, content wise for last night and what they had to shift around for tonight.
Well, this is where a lot of times their secondary and third channels come into play. I know at Altitude Sports and Entertainment, we used to call it the Deuce. When we had to kick over and we had a Nuggets Avalanche game combined at the same time, So I think what you see is internet comes into play here too. A lot of these regional games get bumped down to regional broadcast, get to, streaming only or ESPN Plus. This is why these things actually, a lot of times are in play because it's like canceling a flight, right? It's the same thing. You cancel all the flights in one day. You're going to have to, you get that backlog. Similar situation here. And certainly for TV, they have to have that overflow option.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine thinking about the game today. It's that 48 hours of rest you're not going to get if you're Georgia. And I fully expect Georgia to win. And it's the Superdome. God, it's coming up on its 50th anniversary. I think it opened in 75. Yeah, it is. 50th anniversary.
It's not my favorite place to watch a football game. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's massive, but it's got an aura about it, and it's been rebuilt and refurbished many times. John, looking at football, what this playoff is done, and Brenden was right when he talked about it Tuesday. I've followed Kenny Dillingham since I think he was at Memphis briefly with Norvell. Then he went to Auburn. Then he went to Florida State. Then he went to Oregon and Arizona State. And I was sitting there. I've watched this guy Scatterboo play all season long, and they showed his parents up in the stands. This guy is just tough as a $3 steak, and that was a hell of a game. And I mean, you people again, Brenden talked. We had Ken Capps and Ruben Pizarro, who does the Spanish broadcast of Texas football, on the show Tuesday morning. Damn, they played a full 60. Texas looked like they were pulling away. That game's 24-8 with less than 9 minutes to go. And that was the best 9 minutes plus overtime I've seen. But Colt McCoy made two of the best throws right down the middle, threaded it like a needle. What do you think the TV numbers are going to be like off of all this?
Yeah, it was a tremendous game, and I'll say this, and again, with no, with totally understanding the situation yesterday in New Orleans, and then with the car bomb in
Vegas,
in Las Vegas yesterday. Yesterday really in a 20-hour time frame, maybe even a little less, tells you exactly why sport is so important. And again, the relevance of sport, who wins and loses compared to lives being lost, irrelevant. But sport is an escape. And I tell you, you could not have asked for a more compelling game yesterday afternoon than that Texas Arizona State game. And let me tell you this, just as a personal note here, and again, being in the business many years, pie is wine. I actually, when I ultimately hired Blake Anderson in 2020, late 2020, December of 2020, to become the head coach at Utah State, I interviewed Kenny Dillingham in Tallahassee. He was a 30-year-old coordinator at that time for Mike Norvell. 30 years old, and he looked about 17.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, you walk in that room and he comes in, and I'm like, man, what's this kid doing in here? And about 90 seconds into the interview, I'm like, damn, he's got it. He has got it. And you quickly, it evaporates the, gosh, what is this kid going to talk to me about? He is special. And clearly, the players love him. You look at the post-game interviews, the emotion, they'll run through a wall for him. I think Scatterboo could run through a wall regardless. But, I mean, Unbelievable football game. And we could probably spend an entire show on the no call on the targeting. And I agree. I read a quote this morning from Tim Brando, and, when you have an on-air personality like that be so strong about that call, the subjectivity in targeting, and especially when in the first half of the game, Arizona State lost arguably one of their best defenders, was ejected from the game for targeting.
Yeah.
It's a problem. And as somebody who is in the business every day, we've got to come up with some defined, held to attributes of targeting, or get rid of it totally, because it is totally subjective. Who knows whether Arizona State would have made the field goal at the end of the game yesterday, but they damn sure would have had an opportunity.
I agree.
Well, I'm going to say this too. The targeting, when we have Steve Shaw on, who's in charge of NCAA officials, he points out that there's one targeting call for every 5.2 games played. But it seems like in the SEC and among the top 25 teams, there's a lot more. And but I'll take his word for it. I don't have any reason to doubt him. I like him. I trust him on that one. But I think that what we saw in college football yesterday, Arizona State, Kenny Dillingham, this guy is a savant. And I've watched him. I know what he did with Bo Nix the 1 year he was at Auburn. Bo had his best year ever as a true freshman. And everywhere he goes, he does great things. And I just can't. I was at a party yesterday watching the Texas-Arizona State game with people, and again, everyone kept saying, God, this Arizona State team will not say uncle. And they played a full 60. And they're just going to get better. And I will say, I think the TV numbers should be really, really good. And again, after what happened in New Orleans yesterday morning, and then in Las Vegas yesterday, here we got this game we're watching, and it says a lot about just how we are. I mean, you couldn't help but think about what happened, the horrible stuff, and you watch that game. And I think, tonight in New Orleans will be, or today at 3:00, 4:00 Eastern, be a different setting. Franz Beard, one of the best out there, one of our favorites. Good morning. Happy New Year. You are just, you are a fountain of knowledge. You watched the events from yesterday morning. Hell, I'm out in the duck blind and I start getting these texts and I'm like, holy cow. I didn't even know that had happened. But kind of walk us through your yesterday on the first day of 2025, which lot happened from opening gate.
Well, first off, I want to say this. The officials who swallowed their whistles on the Arizona State game, they need to be banned. They shouldn't be allowed to call a peewee game, period, because that was gutless. Yeah. And I realized the guys on the field made a call. It's the guys in the booth that said no targeting. But they all swallowed their whistles, and they should all be banned from. At least we've got to start doing something that really is meaningful to improve the officiating. For example, give them a 1-year suspension. So some of these guys depend very heavily on that money that they make, and this is like, I know. Like they say, you can't have professional officials. Well, what do you think what do you think Ted Valentine is in college basketball? The guy will officiate 120 games this year, and he makes $2,500 every time he blows his whistle. Every time he steps out on the floor to blow his whistle. You multiply that 2,500 times 120. That's a good living.
It's almost 200 a year.
It's more than 200 a year, I believe.
Hey, and Franz, I'd say this just to interject really quickly. His length of time in a game and the leagues that he officiates, he's really making about $3,800 a game. Plus, they get paid expenses too, and they can finagle their schedule to where they make even more than that. I mean, he's probably clearing closer to $5,000 per game if he's handling his travel right. So it's significant money.
Yeah, he's making about $325,000 a year. Yeah. Yeah.
That's really, I've heard that before. We have some friends that are in the local officiating business in Ocala, and it's a hard business, right? Like tough business to get into. It's kind of like, I don't know. I always try to look at it from the 30,000 foot perspective, right? And it says, well, it's like teachers, right? It's like, well, if we could start paying teachers to be in the classroom what they're worth, and maybe the teachers wouldn't want to leave the classroom. It's like, if I'm out on the field, with a bunch of, these players now getting paid all this money and I'm struggling or whatever, I think the psyche goes a little haywire at some point. Life happens, right? And it's hard to, and I think I think some people have a weaker mind and a weaker moral set and a weaker, and their values may be skewed, or maybe they have a gambling addiction or a problem. And this is where people come in and they take advantage. And it's sad in a lot of ways because, we don't want to remove the human element, right?
We don't, but you can have activist officials. And I get this feeling sometimes if you've got some teams that are in the running late season for the playoffs, and they're playing a team that's 4-6 or 4-7, It's like we cannot afford for this team to lose. We've got to get the money. I just get the feeling we see it's almost like a screenplay sometimes. Like the other team is merely a stage prop. And I think we've all felt like that with our favorite team, college or pro, whatever. I do think the NFL has a script that Roger Goodell and the people in New York come up with before the season, because when the Patriots were hot, they just always got the call. It seemed great teams make their own breaks. I will say that. But that Arizona State game, and a lot of people are commenting, Texas always gets the benefit of the doubt. Arizona State showed the nation that they are for real. And I don't know what your Scattaboo is, but that guy is going to have a cult type following in the NFL because he is relentless. I mean, he is, talk about Johnny Football with Johnny Manziel. He is dynamite from a marketing standpoint. I mean, watching him run up the middle there late. How tall is he, guys? 5'8"?
Well, they list him 5'11" and 220. If he's 5'11", then the Lakers need to call me because they need me.
He's 5'11" and his afro.
I mean, Brendan's 6'10".
They seriously need me in the post if he's 5'11".
I've seen you standing next to Bruce Pearl before, Franz. You're 6'3". I mean, 6'4".
I'm 6'1", and I could, let's put it this way, I could post up Cam Scatabo even at my age, let's put it this way, I'm an old fart now.
I want that money. I want some of that action.
but I'm guessing he's like 5'9" and about 225. You know what he looks like physically. I don't know if I'm old, so I remember this. And there was a guy named Don Nottingham. They called him the human bowling ball. He played with the Dolphins, and he was I would say when he wore his cleats, and most guys do wear cleats when they play, was 5'9".
Yeah.
Without his cleats, I would say maybe 5'7.5". Yeah. And this guy is listed 5'11". I'm guessing 5'8.5", 5'9" at 9 when he doesn't have his cleats on. But we put too much emphasis, for example, in guys' size in the NFL. Look at some of these guys right now who are succeeding in the National Football League at quarterback. Bo Nix is maybe 6'1".
Yeah.
Maybe 6'1".
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels is maybe 6 foot. Mm-hmm. He's 6'1" in his cleats. I've stood next to him when he came off the field at Florida in Gainesville. He came running right by me. He's maybe 6'1" in his cleats. We put too much emphasis on this element of size, like Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel is going to succeed in the NFL. They're saying undrafted free agent because he's only 6 foot.
He's 5'10". Yeah.
Well,
maybe.
Yeah.
Right, so the implications, I think we've discussed, we could talk about the what ifs and whatevers, but I want to talk about what's happening. So we have, the Texas ASU game to me was a wonderful football game. I hate overtime. It's cringe to watch. It's not fair. I don't think I think it's a hard way. It's like it's shootouts for soccer for me, right? Like, it's a hard way. It's great and exciting, but it's a hard way to watch the end of a game that really means something that we're condensing down to this watered down, like very peewee version answer to an overtime, a situation that I could think of. It feels like it's AYL football. Hey guys, okay, let's get it on the 20. You run them on in, then we'll go down the other end and do it again, guys. Like
let's go to the NFL version, which is kick the ball off.
Yes.
And if you score a touchdown, it's over.
Yeah. John Hartwell, you're on a lot of committees with the NCAA nationally. And we're talking, everybody's making a lot of great points. what the hell is going on with that organization? Because we've got the portal, and this is, I can't go anywhere. I know y'all can't either without someone saying, Brown, what are they going to do about the portal? This shit is crazy. These kids are just quitting and leaving and coming and going. And nowhere else can you really do that. I mean, you can switch jobs every 6 weeks if you want to, but you're not gonna get anything done. Is anything being done behind the scenes? And if you can't give specifics, give generalities.
Here's the deal, Rob, and I had this conversation with a couple of folks yesterday. The NCAA, and this is not anything that just happened yesterday or last week or within the last 6 months. The NCAA is so litigation adverse right now. Anything they do, they're scared to death of getting sued, and rightfully so in some cases. That we're going to have, Congress intervening, and is that going to be? I know Ted Cruz is on this bandwagon. Obviously, Tuberville's been on it for a while. That's the only way something's going to get put in place that is not going to be subject to a whole litany of lawsuits on the backside of it. And it is crazy. I mean, when you think about, Quinn Ewers and what's happening, is there really a $4 million, $6 million? I've heard all kinds of different numbers out there for him to, go somewhere else and play an additional year in college football. Because if there is, that's a whole lot better option for him individually, whatever his allegiance may be, than going to the NFL. Why go to the NFL when you can make $4 to $6 million for another year in college? So those are the kinds of things that are going to have to be rectified for us to keep from having a major collision somewhere coming in this whole deal. I mean, and I know that sounds simplistic, but the only people winning right now are the attorneys and the lawsuits that are being filed. And again, I look from our situation, and we have the leading true freshman rusher in FBS the entire year. Yeah. And his situation, I understand. Was he getting some NIL money here at Monroe? Yeah, he was getting $4,000 or $5,000 a month. But he now goes to Missouri after taking visits to Eugene, Oregon. And ironically enough, he took a visit to Eugene. He took a visit to Tempe. He went to Oxford, and he's going to go to Missouri. But I mean, it's going to be exponentially, probably 3 to 4 to 5 times the monthly amount that he was getting here. So you can't blame individual kids, but somewhere there's got to be some parameters and guardrails put in.
Yeah, and look at the basketball teams that have a lot of seniors. I mean, Pearl's got 10 seniors at Auburn. That's what we see in the March Madness. The teams that have played together 3 or 4 years beat these teams that are full of, ringers that are there for a check and a cup of coffee. It's hard to build a culture. And where I'd like to see an FBI psychological artist rendering profile of the typical NIL donor, okay? Because they ain't my clients. And I deal with some people that have a lot of money, and they're not, they hate it. I've talked to the biggest booster at a couple of SEC schools, and they will not touch it. So who's giving to it? And here's the other thing.
Somebody is.
Here, did you all see that article? Yeah. It was a column about.
I know we could talk about NIL. The problem is that it is a problem. I heard several people talk about it yesterday, and they're like, "I'm so tired of talking about NIL because we don't even know what the problem is. Like we don't know." That's it.
Hey, Rob, let me give you just a snapshot here. You talk about tonight's game. You've got Riley Leonard going against Gunnar Stockton, and Gunnar's the backup who pressed into duty due to injury. But Riley Leonard and I know Riley's dad. Riley's dad was a guard, Chad Leonard at the Citadel, played there after I played there. So I know him a little bit. Obviously know some people from Fairhope that know him as well. But you talk about a hired gun. I mean, he goes to Notre Dame for a year. It's not like his family is standing in the free cheese line by any means, but it was a financial investment, and they were able to do it. So you contrast that, and he's a great kid. I'm not knocking him or what he did at all. But then I'm reading an article a couple of days ago about Gunnar Stockton showing a picture of his pickup truck. He drives a pickup truck that has 300,000 miles on it. His family are farmers in the state of Georgia. He said, I'm not going anywhere else. All I ever want, I didn't, I was the backup and that kind of sucked. And, but I was going to bide my time because the University of Georgia is the only place that I want to play football. And again, human nature tells you, hey, when you look at those two stories, kind of which guy are you going to pull for probably?
Well, Cam Scatterbo had numerous opportunities to go places last year.
Yeah.
On a 3-9 team. And he stayed. You've got kids who do stay, but the problem isn't that. The problem is we don't have any guardrails. I'll give you a set of things I've been writing about. Okay. You make it so you cannot transfer till you've been one fall and one spring at your school. You cannot transfer if you're still taking a remedial course. You can transfer, but you're going to have to sit a full year. You put a few things like that. If you don't have a 2.5 GPA, you cannot transfer unless you sit a full year. You got to give guys incentives to do well where they are, and you have to give them. If you're even thinking about transferring, you got to have a set of guidelines in place.
Yep.
And the second thing that's got to happen is the NCAA has got to go. We've got to, if you want to stay in the NCAA, stay in there for gymnastics and women's sperm whale harpooning and things like that. But get rid of the NCAA for football.
Yeah, we got to do something. Yeah, let me say something about one of our sponsors, Winter Timber Outdoors in Athens, Alabama, up right next to Huntsville. They're going to grow in the footprint of the Southeastern Conference, and more people I'm finding are going there, or they're calling them, or they're ordering from them. And they broke ground back in mid-November in a new store in Auburn, expected to open up this spring by June. They're going to be looking to Gainesville, Athens, Fayetteville. They're going where the SEC is. That's why they partnered up with us. All the shooting sports and everything that you hunt, from dove, ducks, deer, quail, pheasant, grouse, big game, Dall, sheep, elk, moose. They can outfit you. They're a big Sitka dealer, Dixie decoys. They've got that. All of your shirts, pants, coats, jackets, deer stands, everything that you need to be outfitted. And they've got over 2,000 shotguns, rifles, and handguns in the store. The first thing you will notice when you go in there is the competence of the staff. They know what they're doing. They hunt. They're outdoorsmen. They outfit men and women. Tell you right now, call them up. Let them know you heard about them on Sidelines. Go to the website and check out their collection of St. Nick's knives. These are beautiful knives. They've been making them a long time. Started out down in Orange Beach years ago, but they've got everything you need for your dog as well. To me, as a longtime hunter, nothing's more fun than hunting with a well-trained dog. It just makes the hunt so much more fun. Winter Timber, take a picture of that QR code. Let them know you heard about them on our show. All of our sponsors we're so blessed to have. And this is a cool discussion. There was, Franz, along the lines of what you said, and John, you know this as an athletic director. The kids are still in school. And I know in business, I've moved before, and I had a 5-year contract. And I know what I got when I did it, and I know what would happen if I moved 6 months into the first year. I know you have to. Most people that get these big upfront checks when they move blow it, and they just go crazy. I don't care who you are. So if I had an 18-year-old kid and some school was offering him 7 figures of NIL, I mean, that's my child is 18. He can do what he wants, but I've raised him the right way. And the greatest thing I've heard from my son recently, both of them, is I'd rather have $100,000 in the stock market than a $100,000 car. I'll pay $5,000 for a used car. That's financial literacy. Hi, sports wise, guys, and Brenden and I, we have more fun every day talking to smart people like y'all. Let's talk about this Georgia Notre Dame game tonight. It gets a different set of circumstances right now. And Gunnar Stockton is from Rayburn County, man. Lake Rayburn. I think that's where Nick Saban has a lake house. Not too far from there, just northeast of there is the Chattooga River, Bull Sloughs, Class 5 Rapids. That's where they filmed the movie Deliverance, I might add. This is a tough-ass kid. And he is why we love college football. Riley Leonard, Fairhope, good kid. I'm pulling for the Dogs because they're in the SEC. Let's break down this matchup. We've talked with Tony Barnhart this week. We talked with Jordan Hill, who covers Georgia for us. I'll start with you, John. Looking at it, Georgia, they've got to stay in routine. But I think this is the best coaching job Kirby Smart has done in his 9 years at Georgia. He doesn't have the 2 and 3 deep guys at every position like he's had. They're starting for Arizona State or Indiana now. But I believe he'll have this team dog ready.
Yeah, I agree. I think the difference in this game really comes down to the offensive and defensive lines. You're right. There's no Brock Bowers on this team. There's no, just stand out, can't miss, top 10 draft pick on this team. But they really play well together. They've overcome some adversity. So, and it seems like these players have embraced Gunnar Stockton. He's been there. He's gritty, and I agree with you. I think it's going to be a pretty close game in the first half, but I think Georgia prevails at the end.
Yeah. Comment by George out in Portland. I love this guy, Gator George. If Rob's pulling for Georgia, I will. Oh, good. But no. Here, where is it? Just think, every time you buy Nike, this is Mike McKenzie, I think, you are supporting Oregon athletics. Well, every time you go to Buc-ee's, are you supporting Texas A&M? I mean, this is getting Franz. Anyway, break down that Georgia Notre Dame game.
Well, let me start by this. This is a contest between the two teams that I despise the most.
I like your honesty, Franz.
I would love to see
tough one, Franz. I feel you, brother. I feel you.
So is that guy.
I would love to see this game go 42 overtimes. Me too. I mean, I like this thing. They're going to start it at 4 o'clock Eastern time. I'd like to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning waiting for somebody to win the game. God. I mean, it's that bad.
Well, no, because that's how I felt, Franz. That's how I felt about Texas last night. I was like, man, I'm not happy to pull for him. I like watching Sark struggle to the end, and then, all right, you can win. But you're SEC. I got to pull for you. Like your new family, you're like the stepbrother. Like you're blended. I gotta love you. I don't know how I really feel about you. I still don't trust you around my stuff. You know what I mean? I'll go ahead and fight the bully for you, but I don't like it. And I didn't like. But I like watching you suffer, Sark. But
make you sweat bullets.
This is like choosing between two social diseases. Which one do you want?
Whoa! Like jumping on the grenade, hallelujah, buddy. All right.
Here's the deal.
One more drink.
Georgia, I think, even with Gunnar Stockton at quarterback, Georgia's going to win this ball game because they will be more physical on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Not only that, they will be faster on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Riley Leonard is a good kid. I'll agree with that. But he's also not a really good quarterback. He's good, but he's not really good. And at this level, you got to be really good. Gunnar Stockton, we don't know. But here's the thing. They will go back to the old Vince Dooley prototypical quarterback, which would have had no arms and a great big mouth to hold the football and run. Vince Dooley believed in the Darrell Royal philosophy, which is when you throw a pass, two bad things happen, so you don't throw them. This is going to be just line it up, and we're going to out physical you. And I think Georgia can do that. Rob, you're correct that they don't have the 2 or 3 deep that they've had before. That's because NIL keeps wiping out your backups, because every backup thinks that he should be starting. Every backup looks at the guy ahead of him who's making a lot of money and says, I should be making more than him. I'm better than him, but the coach loves him and he doesn't love me.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
but Georgia, if they avoid injuries and if they avoid making the game too complicated for Gunnar Stockton, and that's the key to me right there. Wow. If you can avoid making the game too complicated for your quarterback in a situation like this, you got a real shot.
All right, John Hartwell. That's a cool stat on the internal chat. Say that about Notre Dame in the bowl games.
Yeah, I saw this somewhere last night. I looked it up really quickly. During the last 31 years, Notre Dame has gone winless in its 10 major bowl games. I guess the last major bowl win dates back to 1994. So, that by itself isn't going to cause them to lose, but I do think that trend continues this evening.
Yeah, one thing about Georgia is Kirby Smart. He played at Georgia. That helps, but he just has a way of connecting with every player on his team. And it comes through in his comments that I love our kids. That's why I don't go into the portal and bring in 25 or 30 new guys every year. I want to develop our kids. Same thing as Dabo. We made a commitment to you. Let us give us time. We'll keep working on you. And if a kid doesn't want to be there, you got to get rid of him, or he'll go anyway. But I think the line of scrimmage, even though Georgia's not as deep, damn, they will get after your ass. And physically, I think they're going to blow up Notre Dame on the line of scrimmage. And Notre Dame will intentionally, I heard Chuck Oliver talking about this on his show. I don't know of a team, he said, that tries more intentionally to get the quarterback involved in the running game than Notre Dame does with Riley Leonard. He's a tough competitor, but I don't think he's going to stand in the pocket and throw for 350 yards. I think Georgia's going to try to bottle up that line of scrimmage, and they've got guys that they've got enough athletes to win this game. I'm not saying Notre Dame doesn't, but Georgia's roster is second or third most talented in college football. And that when you've got a team that can conceive it and believe it, achieve it, you're going to do it. Here's some cool things. Laziness kills ambition. Anger kills wisdom. Fears kills dreams. Ego kills growth. Jealousy kills peace. And doubt kills confidence. Read those in reverse. Ambition kills laziness. Wisdom kills anger. Dreams kill fear. Growth kills ego. Peace kills jealousy. And confidence kills doubt. The thing I see with Georgia football is Kirby never hangs his head and has a pity party, even after a loss. And when Georgia lost to Ole Miss, they were beaten soundly. They still came back and beat Texas. It's pretty damn good. But next question, I'm going to start throwing this around. Is there an elite team in college football this year? How quickly we've gone from Nick Saban dynasty to now.
Ohio State looks really good.
But
really
elite.
Good. I mean,
they do.
About that game, Ohio State kicked the crap out of. Ohio State looks really good. I don't think. And here's the thing: I don't think Oregon's that bad. I don't think they're that bad because they looked like the worst team in the world in comparison last night. I mean, am I wrong, Franz?
Yeah.
No, well, here's the thing that Ohio State was able to do, and this is they're capable. Brendan, I'll agree with you. They're capable of being elite. They've had 2 games in which they showed that they can be, but they've also had games like Michigan when they showed they can't be. My theory on this is that Chip Kelly came to Ryan Day and said, "You got to give me more latitude. You know, the way we're playing, our quarterback sucks. But if you give me some latitude here with the play calling, he can be adequate for us." And I think that he is adequate right now. I don't think he's a superstar, but he's adequate. And he was inadequate against Michigan. And I think that Chip Kelly went to Ryan Day and said, "Little brother, this is the way it's got to be if we're going to win some ball games." Now, are they capable of being bad? Ohio State, yeah, but maybe they're that team that's on a roll. Billy Donovan said it best back in 2006. He said, "Are we the best team in the country? I don't know, but we're the only one that went 6-0 at the end."
Yeah.
And that's what's got to happen here is somebody's going to have to go 4-0.
Yeah. Right. Franz,
Simple.
I agree with that point about what Billy Donovan said and the coaches. What's really funny is Ryan Day and Chip Kelly are both from what state?
New Hampshire.
That's right. The Granite State. You know, live free or die. It's their license plate. It's amazing what Ryan Day, and I think the best and the worst thing that happened to Ohio State was to be beaten at home by Michigan at the end of the season, November 30th, because that Ryan Day, it did something, it lit a fire under his ass, and that team is now living up to expectations, and they're really good. Let me say something. Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company. I'm taking a friend's pair of boots out there. If you've got boots and you want to get them restored, there's nobody better than Hewlett and Dunn. They've got folks that do this full time, and they've got over 7,000 pairs of boots in the store. They've revamped the website. They've got men's and women's clothing, shirts, all the Barber, Filson, Duckhead, STS, Pendleton, Schaefer, Duckheads, Old South, Devil Dog jeans, you name it, they've got it. They're open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and they will ship anywhere. Look at the pictures on here. Great looking clothes. The best looking people shop at Hewlett and Dunn on the square in Collierville. Look, if you live in the Mid-South, go there in person. If you're coming through Memphis, go to Hewlett and Dunn, Charles Hall, Raven, JM, Charles' wife, Laura, Squidward. They are so good. Every time I go in there, you know, Raven will walk up and say, "Hey, Audrey, you'll love this." And she always does. If it's a new purse, they got so much cool stuff. You'll love it. And, okay, so when we talk about, you know, these games and you think about the psychological edge of a coach, Marcus Freeman's pretty damn good. Again, his agent, I know his agent. I'm learning a lot about Marcus. He was defensive coordinator. Notre Dame, they're really good. They beat Indiana. Let's talk about this Penn State team. Did anybody have an easier path to get where they are, John Hartwell, than Penn? Not that it's easy. Georgia wins the SEC, sits at home with the bye, and gets to stare Notre Dame in the face for their first game.
Yeah, I agree. When you look at who's left, and I know we've got one more quarterfinal game tonight, and you know, I do feel confident Georgia will win that game. When you look at, hey, who do we project in the final game? I still think it's trending Ohio State, Georgia. I think Penn State and Texas, while they show flashes, I think there are too many chinks in the armor, if you will, to sustain making that championship run. I may be proved wrong, but I right now would say it's Ohio State and Georgia in the championship game in Atlanta on
fewest variables for both of them, I believe, and I think you're right. Here's the one thing that I think we need to do. I think it's trending that way, but for years like this, and the NFL draft, it shows you a lot, because you look at the teams that at how many quarterbacks they're projecting to go in the first round. They're saying maybe one. Last year we had 6. So that tells you a lot about where college football is right now. When you don't have elite quarterbacks, the game is kind of leveled out to where there's a lot of teams with a chance. But I think Georgia and Ohio State, I'd like to, John, I think that the smart thing to do that would compensate for years like this would be, let's expand the playoff. You got 8 conferences, have eight conference champs get in, 8 at-large teams, no buys. Everybody plays, and is it fair, for example, that Georgia had to sit 2 weeks while Notre Dame got a home game to play? No, it doesn't. And we saw that yesterday. Every team that got a bye struggled. They really, really had a difficult time. Oregon has a bye. They're terrible. Texas has a bye. Texas didn't have a bye, but they won. Arizona State had a bye. It worked for them, but it didn't work for the other guys.
It didn't work early for them. They came on late. They were way off.
Yeah. So you got to give, I think the only thing that's going to make sense is expand it. Okay. I don't have a problem with the Sun Belt Conference champion getting into the tournament. And people say, well, they'll never, ever, ever beat. Goodness, Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame.
That's right.
At Notre Dame. Poop happens.
Yeah. I think it keeps people interested when you bring in teams, especially, and it creates a lot of conversation, for damn sure. I mean, that's a given. I mean, John, you know this. I hate buys. Baseball is the best example of hot bats sitting for a week, and the team that finished behind them and keeps playing. And because you look in the past, you had 35, 37-day layoffs in the BCS championship, and the hot offenses always were slower than they had been during the regular season. So the buys, we don't know what Georgia's going to look like. We just know this, that Georgia, their last game they played, golly, was December 7th on Saturday when they beat Texas. And so Gunnar Stockton every day has had to hear questions about, can he do it? Is he good enough to do it? And psychology, I mean, really, if you put it out there that you're not good, that's what you'll get. Junk in your head, junk out. And I think all this time they have to sit around does nothing but create a lot of doubt if you're not careful. But that's where I give Kirby the advantage. His degree is from the business college at Georgia. I know he and his wife have given endowed chairs to the University of Georgia College of Business. Bottom line, man, as we wrap up here, today at 3:00, SEC supremacy. We got Texas still in the mix, and you've got Georgia still in the mix. But you watched yesterday Oregon, and that was a beating against Ohio State. Matt Dean, our good friend, he's actually flying back right now. The SEC loses. If the Big Ten wins it again this year, there's going to be a lot of people saying there's been a big power shift, away from the SEC. And I think what the SEC better do quickly is get some quarterbacks. And, quarterbacks are, as far as elite teams, we're not getting them. Look how sloppy the play is.
Like if Georgia wins today, the SEC ain't doing too bad with 50.
No, I'm saying that's why this game is so big.
SEC, it is big. I think it's a big game. I think it's a bigger game because everyone's holding their collective breath. I think everyone wants to get this game over with and make sure nothing bad goes to happen. Nobody.
There's a lot of anxiety, Brenden.
In my column, I wrote words of wisdom for each coach, and for Kalen DeBoer, I used the quote by Casey Stengel: "If anyone wants me, tell them I'm being embalmed." Did
you see the meme on social media of Kalen DeBoer looking in the mirror and looking back at him as Brian Harsin? Oh, God. Wow.
Well, I don't know. Social media, like we say that, we have to like drill down like Twitter or something else.
Oh, X. Yeah, I saw it on X. Hey, let me say something.
By the way, Sugar Bowl time is official from the 4 p.m. Eastern, rescheduled on ESPN. We're on the crawl. I just looked it up on their website. So check it out today, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. You guys are talking 3 p.m. So those of us that are on the
Eastern
right coast.
The correct coast. Hey, let me say something real quick about one of our sponsors, Brenden, before we get away. Landers
Hold on,
Ford.
Franz, what you're saying, don't forget what? Sorry. Go ahead, Franz.
What I was saying is, don't forget we have Ole Miss versus the Dukies tonight in a game that I'm sure everybody's sitting on the edge of their seat waiting for the outcome of that one. I mean, my heart is beating. All I can say is we have this ball game that they're putting on after the only games anybody's interested in. And it's going to be cold in Jacksonville. It's cold right now in Tavares, Florida, where I am. It's 48 degrees here. It's Arctic. I'm telling you,
it's not even showing up to this game. I heard he's out for he's injured or something. I don't think anybody wants to play this game.
Yeah, y'all are right, and I can't ever remember the Heisman Trophy being just covered up. It was like it was a cover up. There really was a Heisman Trophy. This playoff thing, we got to find a way to incorporate the bowls, guys. But let me say something before and I'll come back after it. But I want to say something about another one of our sponsors, Landers Ford. One of the members of my hunting club has bought 17 vehicles for his company from Landers. And was hunting yesterday with another member of the club. We rode out to one of the pits in his brand new 2025 Ford Lariat pickup truck. Guys, these trucks on the inside are like being in your living room, but they perform in the field. They hit those ruts, the mud, the four-wheel drive. They do it all. They are fantastic. And those Broncos, just go test drive the Sasquatch package Ford Bronco. Landers is open Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m., 7 p.m. The service department, folks, if you've got trouble, they'll pick you up, take you there to the dealership. $500 off for SEC Sidelines audience members. The number one Ford dealership in the Mid-South, okay? They are everywhere in the Mid-South. They will deliver anywhere. Call them up. Tell them you heard about them on Sidelines. Ask for our good friend, the general manager, Brad Bellamy. If you didn't buy your last vehicle from Landers, you probably paid too much. I like John and Franz and Brenden and everybody watching. We're all going to be glued to the TV. And Brendan's right. There's a lot of, call it anxiety or whatever. This game at the Sugar Bowl today, it's going to be, I've got several friends down there at the game. And Jordan Davis Hill, I've been texting with him. Tony Barnhart was on with us Monday. They're all down there. I imagine you might want to be leaving right after we go off the air to get in line, because wouldn't y'all think security is going to be pretty damn tight? But we also, Franz, you hit on it. They're bringing it right after that. You're bringing the Gator Bowl. Brenden referenced it. Scheduling, that's a mess, because that game was supposed to be into itself. Now it's going to have to follow Georgia Notre Dame. That's tough. But guys, final comments. And let me say, we live in the greatest country in the history of the world. We're the most blessed people. And most often we find the face of Christ in the least among us. Don't ever forget who you are and how you can go out and help people make it happen. John, closing comments.
Yeah, as we were talking about the logistics at the top of the show, and that's one of the things that had to be moved, because obviously the CFP game in New Orleans takes precedent over that Gator Bowl, and I'm sure that wasn't necessarily the conversation the Gator Bowl committee wanted to hear. Is, hey, we're going to play this game at 3:00 for these teams. One from a safety component, the other from a trying to mitigate as much of the competitive disadvantage we can as part of that. So, but that's something they're going to have to deal with along the lines. But hey, I think today is going to be a great game. You make a great point though too. I think you're going to have a lot of people watching this game today who may not necessarily be college football fans, just saying, hey, what's New Orleans going to look like on the backside of this? And I'll say this, Governor Landry and his group here in our fine state of Louisiana, I think they've done a good job. I'll say this, I think you're going to get some transparency and some answers on the backside of this. They're going to be good, not just for New Orleans or the state of Louisiana, but for our country as well.
Absolutely, John. Thank you. Franz?
Well, my heart goes out to all these people in Louisiana right now, because their state is getting a lot of bad. People are going to say, well, Louisiana's bad. Look at what happened there. All these negatives that are going to happen, and they always do with something like this. So I lived in Louisiana before. A wonderful place, good people, etc. They're going to do their best in New Orleans to make this a normal day, but it's not normal there, and it's not going to be. So my hats are off to everyone who is brave enough, and I say that because if your kids are there in New Orleans, what do you tell them? Look for pipe bombs on the street, or whatever like that. It's a terrible situation, and it puts a bad, a cloud over the Superdome where they're going to play the ball game. I mean, it's, we were having a really good playoff, and then this happened, and I don't like it. Now I'll make one other comment, and then you can kick me out of here. It's ridiculous that we've allowed ESPN to dictate college football, but they do. And it's time to give ESPN the finger and say, yes, you give us all this money, but we have the product. Therefore, we have a say in this, and you're going to have to tighten some things up. We cannot have the Bahama Mama Bowl being played in Jamaica before 3,000 fans, or whatever they want to call it. And look at the attendance of these bowl games. It's not there. Look at the attendance at even these playoff games. They're not playing to full stadiums. Something's got to give here. We got to make this. We got to do something to make college football better. Rob, you've said all along that college football is going to survive, and it will. But at what price does it survive? And does it really put college football's best foot forward? This is an important offseason. We got to take the time to start addressing problems at their root instead of symptoms, which is what we always do.
Don't play kick the can. Franz, great job as always. Brenden, you are in St. Augustine, man. I hope you and Stella are having a blast down there. An awesome show today. Great comments that you bring in. And you're right, damn Arizona State. Look, just being neutral, that's great for college football, but this is the topic we're going to get in tomorrow on the roundtable. The attendance. Why is the attendance off? Probably, Brenden, because those fans are going, okay, I might have to do this 3 or 4 weekends. That's why. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, well, I do agree. But look, I'm just more of a in the moment kind of guy. We have a lot of offseason to discuss all that kind of stuff, but I'm excited about Georgia.
I am too.
Seeing this Notre Dame game tonight. Last night was exciting to see all that play out. I was glad to see the SEC come prevail, even though I hate rooting for Texas, but whatever.
Brenden,
but they're still family. So
you were right about Texas though against Arizona State, because you've lived out there, and they play damn good football, and you know what? That's going to fuel interest for college football around the country. But I've got Georgia to win 20-17 today at 4 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back tomorrow, man. Awesome job, Brenden. You are on another level. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow.
Yes, everybody. Rob, happy New Year to you all. Thanks to John Hartwell. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks to Franz Beard. Check him out on GatorBaitMedia.com. Rob, we're going to learn how to say goodbye when we go to parties in 2025. That is your job. Rob, you need to learn to say goodbye. I'm going to talk to I haven't met your children yet, but I can't wait to meet your children because we're going to have some conversations. All right. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Check out Sidelines.live for all of our information on more of our sponsors. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Twitter. We've got QR codes flying around for all of our sponsorship. If you want to advertise on this show, please contact us. It is easy to do. You can find us on Facebook. Message us there. Message at Rob Browne on Twitter. I'll pop that QR code. If you in 2025 you want to get one of your QR codes up there and be one of the cool kids on the block, please contact us. We would love to have your business. So support us, our show. We'll support you. Follow us, like us, hate us. We don't care. We speak the truth. Thanks for joining us. It's going to be an exciting new year. And yes, we're going to teach Rob how to say goodbye in 2025. Good night, everybody. Love you, John Boy.
See you in the morning.
Okay. See you in the morning. Go Dogs. Ah!
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shoppe health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal, and the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.